Do you want to improve at a quicker pace? Check out GITGUDRacing.com. I've coached hundreds of drivers, from real-life racers to sim enthusiasts, who experience rapid improvement after just one session. And while investing in top-notch hardware is great, imagine how much more you can elevate your experience by adding coaching to the mix. My methods are practical, aiming to break down complex concepts into easily digestible bits that are simple to understand. You can find reviews of the sessions I've conducted on the Fiverr link provided in the video description. Let's elevate your racing skills together. Now for the track guide. For turn 1, heavy braking zone, super heavy. I use as a reference for braking this 100-meter board and also this orange block on the left side of the wall. So as soon as I'm passing the 100 and I'm straight to the 100, I'm applying the brakes. You can brake slightly past the 100, but it's gonna be a lot more difficult to carry the speed into the corner. So I think the 100 is gonna be a safe bet for the braking. I'm using here the fixed setup, by the way, with the default brake bias, nothing changed. Now, peaking to 100, holding this 100 a lot, and then before turning, make sure to use this left part of the track right here. So you have your left tires all the way to this green on the left. Now, turning into this corner, it's important to cut a lot here, like I did here. This wasn't an off track. So cut as much as you can on the right-hander because you want to open up this corner. This will be the key to open this one. And I do a small mistake here, and I will explain this mistake because it's very common. So I'm missing this apex right here. I want to apex very closely to this orange curb without touching it, but I don't do that. Instead, I go slightly around it. And why is that happening? Because I have this input in throttle right here. So I go on the throttle around this part, I give it a blimp. That's because my car was too slow on the first apex right here on the right-hander, and because I braked a bit too much and I didn't release as much as I needed, and you see I hold the brake pressure a lot more, the car is very slow at this point. So because it's very slow, I'm trying to compensate for that by giving it a blimp of throttle, but the moment that I put the throttle on, the car will start understeering into this corner. I realized it and now I'm dropping the throttle, but it was already too late. So the takeaway from this is that you want the car to be quick enough into this right-hander, because if you're gonna park it on this apex, then you will miss a bit the next one, just because you'll go on the throttle and the car will understeer a bit. So in this sequence, I think I lost. See, I'm losing now that 1/10. So probably 1/10 just because I didn't have the proper speed and hence I understeered. But that was the reason of why it happened. Now going into the next corner, I love this track, man. This track is really, really good. The next corner, the braking reference is the 100-meter board. So slightly past the 100, I'm applying the brakes, just slightly past it. Picking 100% braking again and downshifting to third, you really want to cut this curb as much as you can, like this. You want to go over it because you want to open up the next one. So cutting almost to the grass, this one. Now in between the corners, I give it a blimp of throttle. Then I release it so I can take the next one and then I put the power back. So the ideal way to take this corner is to release the throttle but not drop it to zero. You see here, I drop it to zero. In an ideal lap without a mistake in this corner, you can squeeze 1/10 more, maybe 1/10 and a half more, by not dropping the throttle to 0, by rotating more with the braking initially on entry, and then having the goal of having a 0 gap here, 0 drop of throttle. You don't want that. You want the line to maybe drop to 10%, 20%, and then get back up again. Keep this in mind, this is going to be important. Now for this corner right here, I'm braking in regards with this orange block on the right side of the wall. So as soon as I'm not seeing it anymore, I'm applying the brakes. It's not a very hard braking initially, because in this corner you really want to rotate the car with the brakes, to carry the speed. You don't want to slow it down too much. So I'm picking 40%, but I will trail brake for longer. So still trailing, still on the brake, still trailing, and then going on throttle whenever I'm very close to this orange curve, orange block to the right side of the wall. This is my apex here. Whenever I'm reaching this point, I'm going back on throttle, using all this track. And for the next corner, the 50 meter board is gonna be the reference. I'm braking past the 50. So right now I'm applying the brakes, and it's the same thing. You don't want to brake very high initially. So the common mistake here is slamming the brakes to 50%. That's not gonna be, I mean, not in this corner, in the previous one. In this one you can brake a bit more, but the common mistake is adding like 50% more braking than you need. Like if you need 70%, you will add 80 or something, 85, 90. You don't want that. You really want to rotate the car with the braking. So trail braking, trailing, and then cutting this curb as late as you can. If you're gonna meet it early, then you will run out of track. But if you plan to go over the curb but turn as late as you can, then you can properly take it and you will use all the exit. Now we're going into Ascari, and the braking reference is the 100, slightly past the 100 I'm applying the brakes. I plan to use a bit this right side of the track while I'm doing the initial braking, and in 4th gear I'm downshifting and I try to cut this curb as much as I can. You can barely hit the black and yellow curb, sausage curb, and the car will still be okay, and immediately after you have to put the power down. You don't want to have a gap in your inputs in this corner. Riding along this curb, and at this point I'm upshifting to 5th gear. Even though the car wasn't 100% ready for 5th gear in terms of RPMs, upshifting a bit quickly here is gonna give you that extra balance that you need, because the car is very loose, because you're going left, right, and now you're going left again. So you're switching and you're doing the weight transfer laterally a lot into this corner, and the rear can get loose. So I'm giving this upshift to 5th, slightly before this curb, to balance it out, cutting that curb and cutting here as well. And right now we're heading towards the last corner. The braking reference is the end of this green right here. So at the 50 or the end of the green, I'm applying the brakes, and I plan to apex as late as I can and trail brake into a corner. So still trailing, still on the brakes, and very close to this pole light right here, right now. This is where you want to put the power down at this point. Now I'm building up the throttle, still in 4th gear. You don't want to go past the white line because it's gonna be an off track. And in short, that's a track guide for Monza with the super formula. I hope you have a great week ahead, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye bye.